Welcome. We're diving into a really powerful financial tool that every software engineer should know about, the annual worth method. We're going to break down how you can use it to figure out the value of software investments, especially when you're dealing with projects that have totally different lifespans.
So here's the game plan. We'll start by looking at a super common problem, and then I'll introduce the annual worth method as the solution. After that, we'll peek under the hood at its formula, see what its biggest advantage is, and then wrap up by showing you how to actually use it to make some really smart decisions.
All right, let's get right into it. We're going to start with a challenge that I'm sure many of you have run into when you're planning out new projects.
So think about it. You've got one project that's slated to last 3 years, and another one that's supposed to go for 5. How do you actually compare them fairly? It's that classic apples and oranges problem, right? It makes it incredibly difficult to see which one is truly the better investment for the long haul. A simple cost-benefit analysis just doesn't cut it.
But what if there was a way to make that comparison totally straightforward and direct? Well, that is exactly what the annual worth method was designed for.
The way it works is pretty clever. The annual worth method takes all that messy financial data, the big upfront investment, the revenues that go up and down, all the ongoing costs, and it boils it all down to one simple average value for each year. It basically smooths out all those financial bumps into a nice, steady annual number. So, how does this financial API, so to speak, actually work? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the core components of the formula.
Okay, so the formula itself looks wonderfully simple, right? At a high level, it's just annual worth equals your annual revenues minus your annual expenses minus this thing called capital recovery. Let's break down what each of those pieces actually is.
First up, we have R. This stands for all the money, or maybe even the savings, that the project brings in every year. The method's job is to convert all those benefits into an equivalent, steady annual amount.
Next is E, and that's for all your ongoing costs to keep the project running. Things like support contracts, maintenance, server bills. All of that stuff gets averaged out into a single yearly figure.
And finally, we have CR, which is capital recovery. Just think of this as the annual price tag of your big initial investment. It actually covers 2 things. First, the asset's loss in value over time, kind of like depreciation. And second, it accounts for the interest you could have earned if you just invested that money somewhere else instead.
Okay, now let's circle back to that first problem we talked about, comparing projects with totally different lifespans. This right here is where the annual worth method has a genuine superpower. It uses this really powerful idea called the repeatability assumption. Basically, it assumes you could just run the project again and again and again in a sort of infinite loop, and it would always generate that same annual worth. So a 3-year project is assumed to be replaced by another identical 3-year project, forever. And this is what makes the whole thing so powerful. You don't have to do any crazy math like finding the least common multiple of the project years, finding a 15-year timeline for a 3-year and 5-year project. Nope. You just evaluate one cycle of the 3-year project against one cycle of the 5-year project. And because of that repeatability assumption, the comparison is totally fair and mathematically sound. It's brilliant. So when you put annual worth side by side with another common method, say present worth, which calculates a project's total value in today's money, you can really see its unique strengths. Present worth is awesome for one-off investments, but comparing those unequal timelines gets really complicated. Annual worth, though, it handles that right out of the box. And for managers, this is huge. The result is super easy to interpret. An annual worth number slots directly into annual budgets, making it pretty much the perfect tool for ongoing software systems. So, this is the most crucial part. How does this actually help us as software engineers and managers out there in the real world? How do we connect our code to the actual cash flow?
This is the key. Every single technical decision you make, your choice of tech stack, how maintainable your code is, the scalability of the system, it all directly plugs into the variables for the formula. Your tech stack choice, that sets your initial investment. Your code quality, that dictates your annual expenses for maintenance. And the system's architecture, that determines its useful lifespan. This just goes to show that good engineering planning is good financial planning. A bad architectural decision or a requirement that wasn't thought through can absolutely destroy a project's financial value right from the start, just by jacking up future costs and shortening its life.
And after all the calculations are done, the rule for making a go or no-go decision is incredibly simple. If that final annual worth number is 0 or positive, it means the project is a good investment. It's economically justified because it meets or beats your minimum required rate of return. So, to wrap it all up, the annual worth method takes your technical project details as its inputs, runs them through its financial engine, and then gives you this clear, simple output. And that output gives you a definitive rule to guide your investment choices.
So just think about that for a second. This tool creates a direct, mathematical link between the technical work you do every day and real business value. It can help you justify better technology choices, make a case for more robust architecture, and ultimately help you and your team make smarter, more profitable decisions for the long run.